Hello, everyone. Happy Halloween and welcome to Samhain with the Morrigan. I am so excited to be here with you today. I also just want to thank everyone who's here with me live. I know that for so many of you, there are so many different Halloween and Samhain events going on. And so it means so much that you chose to spend your Samhain with me, your Halloween with me. And I'm just like really ecstatic to be here with you. I'm just saying hello to everyone in the chat. Oh my God. So many of you I know, but if you want to just like share where you're coming from and also let me know how your Halloween has been. I am just so excited to be here. This is one of my all-time favorite holidays. And just especially like I know there's a lot of people watching on the replay, but again, I'm just sending so much heart love to everyone that is here live. And we have more people coming in the waiting room. I'm just amazed. Like I know there are so many Samhain events going on, and I'm just so honored because this was just like a last minute. Okay, I won't say it was a last minute download because the truth is, I went to the Cave of Cats, which is sacred to the Morrigan, actually twice, once in August and once in September. I think it was the second time I was there and I know some of you here in this beautiful Zoom room. I know some of you there were here with me at the Cave of Cats. I'm so glad that you're here. But I'm just sharing this because I had this come through from the Morrigan. You're doing a Halloween event and it's all about me. And so I kind of stored that away. And so now I'm just sharing that it's so funny. So this was requested by none other than the Morrigan herself. She insisted. And really, to me, this is an event today that is actually very much rooted in the Gaelic and the Irish tradition. And so a lot of people, when they look at Halloween, they're like, oh, where does it come from? And there is a fabulous story, connected to the Morrigan, which is really the beginning of Halloween, the origin story. And it's not just, there's a little bit of surprise, but it was I see people here live. I love your hat. Oh my God. Claudine, your hat is amazing. It's like, but no, I'm just sharing there. So the origin story of Halloween is actually really connected to Queen Maeve and the Morrigan. They're in like the same magical story. And so I am gonna hold on, Jennifer. I'm just like going to the chat here. Let's see. Jennifer, you pulled the Morrigan card on our trip to Ireland. Oh my God. I remember that. I do remember that's all coming back. And Claudine, yes, Claudine's like, I was in the Cave of Cats in August. Yes, you were. I know. That was a very epic moment. I know I won't go too much into because it was very, very sacred. But I can just say that those of us that were there, it was like complete silence. I don't know if you guys have seen, I almost wish I had a picture. Those of you, if you want to look up the Cave of Cats on your computer, it actually has a kind of a yoni-like shape to it. And it is sometimes the Christians called it the gateway to hell, but it really is the portal to the other world. And it's so funny because when we were there, I had the same incredible driver on my two trips in August and September. And this is like a Christian man. And so we're joking the whole time we're taking him to the gateway to hell. He's like, okay, well, I trust you, ladies. You seem like really nice people. I trust you. I guess it's okay. But I'm just sharing this because when I first went to the Cave of Cats, actually, like I just, mentioned, like there was someone here who was there with me. And I can't even tell you, it was like this moment where just like we couldn't even speak. The sacredness, the majesty of this cave was just so palpable. And I feel like there's a lot happening in the chat that I have to like pay attention to, but I just want to share. We have someone from Germany. Katerina, I've seen you here before. I'm so glad that you're here. Let me see other people. Oh, I have someone from Indianapolis. And this is your first time here live. Welcome. And we have some from the Appalachians, Virginia, Barbara from Chicago. Oh my God. And we have at the top, Valeria, you are in England living on a boat. Oh my goodness. So I'm just like so grateful for everyone who's here. I feel the energy. And to me, this is just off the charts. And so I'm just curious. I know that I talk about the Morrigan a lot, but how many people here are familiar with the Morrigan? Because I know that she incites fear. And I say this with such love, but I think that's part of her charm is that sometimes like people hear the Morrigan and it's like a hush and a whisper, and they're like, the Morrigan, because she is the battle goddess. She is the warrior queen, and often she's deeply connected to fate. And if you saw like a crow overhead on the eve of battle, it wasn't a good sign. It usually was a sign that your side was going to lose the battle. But the thing with the Morrigan, which I love so much, is you really wanted her on your side. Oh, didn't you love the Morrigan? Yes. I was like, and no, that's what I'm saying. So the Morrigan, I'm just letting everyone here know, because you are divinely called here. Anyone who is here, the Morrigan like is a phenomenal ally to have. And I say that because so many of the stories of the Morrigan, not that they're misinterpreted, but if you look at some of the ancient texts, there's one story in particular that I feel, Guy, that we're going to go into today with Cuchulainn. If you were part of my mermaid challenge last week, we actually had 2 days focusing on Cuchulainn. He was more of like, we were focusing on the goddesses, but he just was in all the stories. And so this is another Cuchulainn day. And so the thing with today, oh my God, we have so many people here. I'm just so excited. So the thing with Cuchulainn is that him and the Morrigan had a very adversarial relationship. And for those of you who did not see last week, or you're not familiar with the mythology, Cuchulainn was considered one of the greatest, if not the greatest warrior in the Irish mythic cycle. So there are some moments where Cuchulainn is truly valiant and noble. It's actually like possible he had some divine parentage. There are stories that he was the son or the grandson of the god Lu. So there is like definitely a divinity to Cuchulainn himself. But when he meets the Morrigan, it's not really a good story, because the first time she lays eyes on him, the Morrigan is overcome with passion and eros and love for Cuchulainn. And there's, I think, something that she recognizes in him, that same fierce spirit that she possesses in herself, she sees in Cuchulainn as well. But Cuchulainn, who has had many different love affairs with all different fairy queens he spurns the love of the Morrigan, which is not a very wise thing to do. And so I'll share a little about that story. It might be coming through now, but before I go into it, I just want to just give you guys a little taste of what is coming through in today's surprise class. So we are going to hear a little bit more about the Morrigan and Cuchulainn. I have a beautiful story with Dagda, the good god, one of the two, the Danan and the Morrigan. This is actually something that I wrote a couple years ago. Every once in a while, I pull this out and I share this, and the Morrigan insisted, I want you to read this because it's another Samhain story. And we are also going to go into the story which focuses on Queen Maeve, the origins of Samhain, the origins of Halloween. It's actually not really the origins of Samhain, but it is like, I feel like the origin of Halloween itself. So this story that I'm going to tell you, I'm very excited because I felt like, not that I didn't have a choice, but you'll get to kind of know with these goddesses, especially with the Morrigan, that they don't tap you lightly on the shoulder. It's more like it's like a very loving but firm push. And so I'm just sharing. So the Morrigan, one of the reasons why I really love connecting with her, I said, like, she is the Raven Queen. She's also a sovereignty goddess. So when she goes up to Cuchulainn, and she immediately, when she first goes up to him, she meets him in the form of this radiant beauty. And one thing you should know about the Morrigan, she is a shapeshifter. So she can become a crow, a raven. She can be anything she so desires. And she transforms into the most beautiful, glorious woman. And Cuchulainn, again, he has that divine origin, recognizes her, and yet he completely spurns her affection. And he says, I will give you no blessing. I will give you no healing, no blessing, nothing. And so, mind you, you don't really do this with a sovereignty goddess. And I actually don't think that there is any goddess in the mythology that is disrespected in quite the same way that Cuchulainn disrespects the Morrigan. And just be mindful, the Morrigan, when you disrespect her, she goes after you with a fury. So from this point on, she makes it her sovereign mission that she is going to attack Cuchulainn, and she's going to get back at him. And she's going to prove, I think that it's not just like that he was wrong to spurn her, but she's going to really show her mettle. And it's this kind of powerful relationship that many people I don't know how to describe it, like, because when you see it, if you read an ancient story, it just looks very adversarial. But when you really, to me, feel into the heart of it, because my deep connection with the Morrigan, I feel her heart. And I think before we go into like all of the stories today, I do want to cast a sacred circle because that's really what I feel is missing from so many of the tales, so many of the legends. They see her as this like bloodthirsty warrior goddess, and everything that I've ever come to know about the Morrigan from my deep and personal experiences with her is like, I feel her heart. And I can just share. I've had moments where I just was like, I can't go on. I can't do it. And I like, there is like something in my life just felt too overwhelming. And it was the Morrigan who would come to me, be like, stand up. She is the goddess that encourages you to rise. She is the goddess that when your sovereignty is questioned, when you feel at your weakest or your most down, she will help you rise again. And so I'm just really wanting to share this different understanding of the Morrigan as an ally who wants you to ascend and embody and embrace your greatest sovereignty. But also, what I love about the Morrigan, she is also a goddess of fate and prophecy. So when you connect with her, she's also helping you step into your highest destiny. And so, one thing I can share, this is funny, this is kind of something I wasn't really planning on sharing, but when I was in Ireland in, I guess it was in August, I was there with a couple women at the Stone of Destiny. We weren't really supposed to get near the stone. And there is at one point, so those of you who don't know, like I said, like there, the Morrigan will transform into a raven or a crow. And we wanted to get really close to Stone of Destiny, and we were afraid. And all of a sudden, this beautiful, glorious, it wasn't actually a raven, it's a rook. It's the cousin of a raven, kind of a middle-sized bird, just swooped overhead and landed ever so gently, ever so elegantly above the Stone of Destiny. And it was just me and the women in my group, and we all just knew that it was the Morrigan herself standing guard, standing vigil, so we could have this glorious moment, just the three of us with the stone. And so I'm just sharing this with you because it was just a moment like when we tell these stories, sometimes they seem like they're from hundreds of years ago. Some of them are thousands of years old. And we forget that the gods and goddesses in these stories are living and breathing, that they are here walking with us, like a beautiful raven on our shoulder. And so I share this with you because especially when you hear these stories, let them come alive for you. Not just because the stories are alive, but because the goddesses themselves, they are here with special Samhain and special Halloween blessings that they are very eager and excited to bestow this day. So let me, without further ado, I'm actually going to cast our sacred circle. And then I want to start, I am going to read the story of Dagda and the Morrigan because it gives you a great sense of more of I think her power. And I really just love reading this. This is something that I said, like, it was channeled through me a few years ago. I love sharing the story. And this is about the coming together of Dagda and the Morrigan, where they conceive the goddess Bridget. And this happens on Samhain. So it is the most magical, perfect day to share this with all of you. Some of you may have heard this before, but if you have, don't worry, you're going to get something completely different this time. And more than that, what I really sense is the energy of the Morrigan is going to just be so channeled through you. And so this, I'm just sharing this briefly. I had something that happened yesterday that really kind of threw me off my guard. Something where someone treated me in such a way that I didn't really feel in my sovereignty, where there was almost more of like a servant energy that I got put into for a second. And I was so surprised because I hadn't had an experience like that in ages. I was just like, I don't even know what to do. And I felt the Morrigan come to me because that's the whole thing, is that to hold that pillar of sovereignty. Sometimes it is a lifelong, it is a lifelong journey. And sometimes that we have to choose again and again to take that crown of sovereignty and always remember our own unique, innate, divine power. And even on those moments where we feel like we don't have it in us, it is. That seed of that warrior-ess, that fire never truly goes out. It is within you. It is who you are. And that is part of the message the Morrigan brings through. And the Morrigan also brings through this invitation for you today on this very magical holiday to shapeshift. And what are you wanting to become? What are you wanting to step into? And so the Morrigan today, I think there's also going to be, of course, an activation, a transmission. She is going to help you shapeshift and step into that. So I'm going to cast our sacred circle. We're going to tell the first story with Dagda and the Morrigan. And it's not long, but it is potent. So let me just start casting our sacred circle. I cast this circle through space beyond space and time beyond time. I cast this circle to block out all energies and spirits that are not allies of ours. I cast this circle that all energies raise to and remain confined. As above, so below, as within, so without, the circle is sealed. Into the sacred space, I call the elements, earth, air, water, and fire. I call the directions, north, south, east, west, above, below, and within. I call upon the Morrigan, great goddess of Samhain, to be here with us today. I call on Queen Maeve, great glorious goddess, be with us. I call on all the Tuatha to be here with us as we go into these ancient legends, these magical, mystical stories. And I call upon the magic, the shape-shifting that everyone here needs today, that they may step into their most magical Halloween and their highest, most magical, extraordinary destiny. So let me start with this beautiful story of the Morrigan for everyone. And so I have some notes I have here just for those who need some more understanding of her. So to lay eyes on the Morrigan is a powerful omen of either victory or doom, for she warns of future catastrophes and prophesies the outcome of battle. To lay eyes on her is to know your own fate. So in this beautiful story, we also encounter the Dagda. For those not familiar with the Dagda, I know I've spoken of him before, but he is a great warrior. He is called the good God, and he has a love of music, and he has a magical harp. Whenever he plays this harp, whatever chaos is in the sky, the seasons return to their natural order, and all the world grows still, listening to the majesty, the beauty of Dagda's music. There's a very special harp that calls to the Dagda and responds to his touch alone. So let me now, without further ado, tell this beautiful story. Again, it won't be long, but I'm definitely really feeling the energy here wanting to be shared. So again, Dagda is one of the Tuatha, very powerful being, and he's really a being of light, which is funny because the Morrigan is more a being of shadow. So when they come together, to me, it's like the two halves, the two forces of creation coming in the most perfect unity. So let me begin without further ado. Dagda lived in Glen Eden in the north. One day, wandering by a stream, he met a mysterious woman bathing in the river, tending her long black hair. The Dagda spoke to the woman he learned was the Morrigan. Many would be afraid of the warrior goddess Morrigan, she who knew the secrets of life and death and controlled fate itself, but not Dagda, for he saw the beauty that lay beyond all that. He admired the fierceness of her heart, and it compelled him to stay. He charmed Morrigan with his kind, strong, and steadfast words. Before long, the two lay together passionately, there at the riverbed, heedless of who would see. The legends say it was then that the goddess Bridget herself was conceived. After the bliss of coming together, the Morrigans suddenly broke their embrace, for a dark cloud came over her vision, and seer that she was overcome with the knowledge of a dreadful prophecy. She told her lover Dagda that in exactly a year and a day, he was to fight a great battle, which he would lose without her help. Morrigan promised to summon the magicians of Ireland. to cast spells on behalf of Dagda's army so they would win. He was relieved and grateful to her, and he thought that was the end of it. But for one as wild and fierce as Morrigan, it wasn't enough. She knew she had to add her unique voice to the spells in order to save her beloved Dagda. And so it was that a year and a day later, Morrigan flew to the battlefield where Dagda fought his enemies. She entered the battle in the guise of a raven, flying overhead before resuming her human form. This fierce goddess did not care that she carried the child Bridget inside her. To stop the war, to cease the battle, she recited a poem of unforeseen power. Whatever words came from her lips, no one knows, for such power is seldom seen in the world today. But when she finished, the battle broke immediately, and Dagda's enemies were driven out to sea. The battle was won with Morrigan's help, as had been foreseen, as she had promised. And now, to celebrate, the Morrigan chanted another poem, to celebrate, to bless the great victory at hand, to honor the land upon which they had fought. Here is a small part of the glorious, beautiful poem that the Morrigan, both prophetess and poetess, sang out that day. She pointed to the land at Dagda's feet and said, "There it lies, the splendor of the land. The land is like a mead worth the brewing, worth the drinking. It stores for us the gifts of summer, even in winter. It protects and armors us. Here we can make for ourselves strong places. Here we can build safe places. This is where we will turn the earth. This is where we will stay, and here where all children live." So I love this so much because this is really a blessing. The Morrigan, we see her as the death goddess, but she's also a fertility goddess. And at the end of this battle, she recites this poem, really blessing the land. Though there has been a great battle, now they start afresh, now they start anew. The Morrigan, many know her as a battle of, as a goddess of death. But to me, death and life are intertwined. They go hand in hand. So when she says, "This is where we will turn the earth, this is where we will stay, and here where our children live," she really is blessing this for future generations. And so here I love the power of the words themselves, like the power, first, like the Morrigan's prophetic ability. She's able to turn the tides of the battle so they are victorious. And I love that. And it's for love. And so that's what I was really drawing at earlier. When they hear stories of the Morrigan and they just see the bloodthirsty nature, because again, like these, I just want to make a note because it's something that came through very clearly. Because there are a lot of people who will talk about the mythos as it was recorded, as it was written down. And I just really want to say from my heart of hearts, as someone who just point blank, I believe in reincarnation. I know I've had many different lifetimes as a storyteller, as a bard, in all different areas in the Celtic Isles. And hold on, I just have a couple more people coming in the waiting room. And I share this, that so many of these stories, when they were written down in a very cursory fashion, and they were written down without the nuance that an ancient storyteller would have placed. So when I shared, that beautiful story of Dagda and the Morrigan, that came from my soul, and not just my soul in this lifetime, in this moment. It really came from, I feel like, this ancient knowledge that I have of these beings, and this knowledge, when you are telling a story, it is like you are really calling in. To me, it's like weaving a spell. When you weave a spell, you are bringing in the forces that be. You are calling in this majesty, this magic that exists from the other worlds. And so when I tell a story, the story takes on a life of its own. The story is rich with life. So when we look at ancient texts, and there are many ancient texts, and mind you, most of these texts were only written down because the Romans, the Christians, like they insisted that like you have all these stories, someone has to write something down. But when we did that, when we wrote down the stories, something was lost in the translation. The heart, the soul, the very essence of these beings did not always make it into the written transcriptions, because when I tell the story of the Morrigan, she comes, she speaks through me. And so I share that. Oh, hold on. I have Claudine writing in the chat. Let me see. Let me see. I think she was saying something good. You said the magic was lost in the translation for sure. Oh, you said that you were thinking how the story was coming from my soul as I was reciting it. Yes. Thank you. No, that's what I'm saying. It just was like, I feel that these stories, they do not really do justice to the Morrigan. And that's why when people connect with her, they're afraid, they're in fear. And I just shared how, I mentioned like being at the Stone of Destiny, this at the Hill of Tara over the summer, how it was the Morrigan, this beautiful rook that flew overhead, giving me and the beautiful women I was with permission, like to really to be there, to hold that sacred space with the stone, with her standing vigil, with her standing watch. And so I'm sharing this because to someone on the outside, they would just see, oh, there's this bird. It flew across the sky and it landed. It was like a beautiful tree right by the Stone of Destiny. But we made each of us eye contact with this magical bird. And I'm sharing this with you because I don't know if you can feel, I have chills just retelling the story because it was her, she was there. And that's really when you tell these stories, and when you go, especially when you actually set foot on different places in Ireland, or it could be Scotland, anywhere in the Celtic Isles, the land itself, the magic is still there. And so when we tell stories of the land, when we tell stories of these gods and goddesses, we are we are calling in a magic that is so ancient, that is thousands upon thousands of years old. And really, this is what I feel coming through of wanting to be expressed. So when we look at a lot of ancient cultures, we might be like, oh wow, this was 2000 years before Christ, and like we feel like that's really ancient, that's really old. And I think that the Egyptians, they have one of the oldest cultures that we look at. I know that they were around at least like 10,000 BC. China as well, those are two very, very ancient cultures. Ireland is just as ancient. It is one, I mean, I know that there were like Neolithic people in all different parts of the world that were clearly occupying the planet at that time. But when I'm talking about mystical cultures, when I'm talking about like deep connection with the beyond, Ireland is it's like at least 10,000 BC. It's the same as Egypt, and there's a lot of interplay between those two cultures. So when we are calling upon the majesty of Ireland, either through visiting the land or through telling the stories, this is an ancient magic, at least 10,000 plus years old, that you are tapping into. And so when we tell these stories, there is a power to them, and is a power to initiate you, to activate you on the deepest level of your being. And that really is the great gift of the Morrigan. She helps you activate the power of your fierce heart. And this is the part of you, this is kind of something that came through this morning. This is just like a little thing I wanted to share that was more personal. I heard a story. My mother was telling me something that she experienced at work, and it was like a very 3D story she told me that was really disempowering. And I got triggered from it. I was like, oh my God, this is terrible. And I woke up feeling this sense of like, even though it was something that hadn't happened to me, this like being in a cage, this sense of like restriction, no freedom. And I felt the Morrigan come in preparation for today's call. And the message she had for me was like, because to me in that moment, hearing what my mother had experienced the previous day at work in this very 3D environment, I was like, there is no freedom there. How can someone have sovereignty in an environment like that? And then what the Morrigan said to me is like, that is not ultimate truth. So that experience of not having sovereignty, that experience of not having true freedom, that is not ultimate truth. And in that moment, the Morrigan invited me to go deeper into my own heart, deeper into my own being, into the freedom that cannot be lost, into the freedom that is ultimate truth. And so I've described this to people before in different seminars, but when I look at like, what is true power, what is true sovereignty, to me at the end of the day, it always comes back to freedom. So when we look at the Morrigan flying high overhead in the shape of a bird, a raven or a crow, or even occasionally a rook, what is a bird a symbol of? A bird is a symbol of the highest freedom. A bird flies in the heavens unhindered, free to go wherever it pleases. It is almost as light as the air itself. And so I'm really just inviting you to experience this transmission of freedom that the Morrigan brings through. And we will go into this more in the activation as well. But with the Morrigan, though, I just really want to share. Did you feel her heart in that story? Did you feel her heart? And that's when people look at the renderings, the stories of her and Cuchulainn, it's this very antagonistic relationship. And I'm going to share more of it in a little bit, in like a second. I'm just going to have a sip of water. I'll tell that story. But the people, when they look at the text, all they see is the ill intent, the clashing between her and Cuchulainn. And I really see that, the Morrigan, when she first laid eyes on him, there was this great explosion of passion and fervor, and it was rejected. And hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. And so I share this, but that's why I love to tell the story of the dog, because it's definitely a story of great reciprocal love. But in the case though with Cuchulainn, it is like her love being spurned. And I really feel that it was the heart of the Morrigan, not just the pride, but really her heart in that moment that was so impacted. So let me take a sip of water. I'm going to tell you a little bit more of the story with Cuchulainn. I feel like everyone that was looking at my water, I'm like an electrolyte queen. So when everyone's like, what is in her water? It's not like a Halloween punch, it's electrolytes. But for me, that is my Halloween punch. But so I want to share, going back to the story from earlier. So remember, Cuchulainn, great warrior, legendary warrior. And the first time that the Morrigan lays eyes on him, she is besotted. She is beside herself with the fierceness, like that. This is a fierceness that she really only knows in herself. And she sees when she first like lays eyes on Cuchulainn, she sees a kindred spirit. And so she immediately, because the Morrigan sexuality goddess, she is very much in her feminine majesty. She goes up in all of her glory. She shapeshifts into the most beautiful woman you can imagine. But Cuchulainn, because he has divine origins, he knows exactly who she is. And he does not want to trifle with the goddess of death, the goddess of battle. And I think on some level, there is a sense of haughtiness. It's like, you, the goddess of battle. Well, I am the greatest warrior who ever lived. And so he doesn't want to bother with her. It's in this moment, I really feel that there has been hubris where he doesn't recognize the majesty of the Morrigan. He recognizes the beautiful being before him, but her majesty, her divine power, her sovereignty does not tempt him. And so he tells her to leave. He insists that she be gone. And he says, I don't want to see you again. I will never bless you. I will never have anything further to do with you. But I think what also comes through as I'm telling this is that there was this flicker of fear in Cuchulainn that he didn't quite know how to express. And this is because the Morrigan would determine, like I said, she determined the fate of men, whether you lived or died. And so to see the Morrigan there, this goddess of death, all decked out for him, there is a flicker of fear. His own mortality suddenly causes him. This is the one woman. This is the one woman who really is a threat to him. And that's why I feel he spurns her, because he does not want to die. He does not want to die. And he sees that, like, what I'm sensing is the two of these beings, the Morrigan and Cuchulainn, they both have a love of battle. For better or worse, there's something about the glory of battle, the glory of being the hero, the heroine, the glory, the valor, the clamor of it all that excites them, that ignites something in their souls. And so he wants to continue going on and winning many glorious battles. And that this radiant death goddess is all decked out before him is not something he wants to deal with. So he spurns her, he shuns her. And it's interesting because, to me, in some ways, they are true equals. So the Morrigan, at this point, being spurned, she decides to do her magical shapeshifting. And at first, she transforms into an eel. And when he is crossing a large river, she goes and she takes a bite out of the bottom of his leg. And so he immediately lashes out, attacks the eel, injures her very badly, so that she is forced to retreat. And Cuchulainn knows, he knows this is the Morrigan. And so, the Morrigan, though, fierce goddess that she is now dead set. She is determined. She is going to be Cuchulainn's undoing if it is the last thing he does, for no one spurns the Morrigan. And so the next time, that she goes to him, I'm trying to remember, there's another, I don't want to mess up the story for you guys. I'm actually going to make sure I get the right animal. Hold on, let me just see if I can find this. I'm going to just tell you guys, okay, I don't remember the second. I think it's a wolf. I can't find it right now, but I want to make sure it's the right animal. I'm going to go 99%. I'm pretty sure I'm right. The next time she shows up to him, it's as a wolf. And so she incites as the wolf. It is a wolf. I remember now, it's coming through. As a wolf, she incites all of these sheep, and she wants them to trample the mighty Cuchulainn to his death. But no, he is too smart. He is too smart, and he takes this magical slingshot and he injures once more the wolf that is leading this whole garrison of sheep. And the second the Morrigan is hit by this, she is disabled. All of her power is lost. The sheep stop charging him, and he goes free. Finally, she tries one more time, this time in the form of a cow. And once more she tries to attack him. Once more she tries, and once more she fails. And he injures her yet again. At this point, the Morrigan wants to give up. She has tried 3 times. 3 times to defeat the mighty Cuchulainn, and she has been outdone. But the Morrigan, clever stratagem that she is not yet defeated. For in her heart of hearts, she decides she has one last trick up her sleeve. And what she does at this point is she transforms into an old woman with different injuries. There's one on her leg, there's one on her eye. And finally, Cuchulainn, not recognizing who she is, he sees her there, this old woman, and he says, "What ails you?" And he doesn't notice that the places she's injured, first her eye, also her leg, are the same places that he lashed out and hit the Morrigan. And he says, "Let me bless you. Let me heal you." And in this moment, the Morrigan opens her arms to him, and Cuchulainn blesses her. And with this blessing, she is miraculously healed. So in this moment, the Morrigan has the full ability. He does not know who she is. If ever there was a moment the Morrigan could turn on him, because he's in a moment of weakness, he doesn't know who she is. He's not fighting. In this moment, he's become soft and calm and loving. And yet, when she looks into his eyes and she sees him there, and she has been healed and she's been blessed and she feels life flowing through her veins. She cannot find it in her heart to hurt him. She cannot find it in her heart to do anything but smile and thank him and let him go. So you would think this would be the very end of the story, and yet it is not. For the legends foretold that Cuchulainn was going to have a very valiant life, but that it would be short. And this is the reason when he first sees the Morrigan that he spurns her so intensely. And so it was a great and glorious battle. And at the edge, the very eve of this battle, he sees a woman. And this woman is tending, it's like bloodied clothes. And he sees her there. And in his heart of hearts, he knows that this will be his last day on earth. He goes to the battle and fights with all the valor, all the heart, all the soul. And in this moment, this is the heart of Cuchulainn. He fights with all that he is, with all of his soul. It is all for naught. It is in vain, for he has seen the Morrigan fly overhead in the sky. He knows his time has come, and he saw the old woman washing the bloodied clothes the day before. And so he takes he takes, actually, it's like a blade to the chest. And he knows he's about to draw his last breaths. So he tries to prop himself up so against a standing stone so that he will not take his last breaths lying down, but that he will take his last breaths valiantly. And he breathes and he breathes and he is all alone. He is all alone as he takes these last breaths. But then, for 1 second, something lands on his shoulder. There's a beautiful caw that comes, and he hears the melody, the music of the Morrigan's voice. In this moment, she is not harsh. She is nothing to be afraid of. She is sweet and kind and loving. And in this moment, something softens in his heart. As he takes his dying breaths, his last breaths, he reflects on the moment where he first laid eyes on her as that beautiful and glorious maiden. And here in this moment, even though she takes the shape of a bird, in this moment he feels the beauty, her true beauty, the beauty of her heart, the beauty of her presence, standing vigil, standing watch, being with him as he takes his last dying breaths. And in this moment, there is just this great companionship, this love that he feels, that she feels, before he takes that final breath and begins his journey to the other worlds. And so I share this because to me, this really is the true story. This is the true story of, Cuchulainn and the Morrigan, because when we look at the story, why doesn't she, like she, gets, all of her wounds healed. She has the ability in that moment to attack him. She has the ability in that moment to get her revenge, and yet she chooses not to. And again, this is the heart of the Morrigan, because in her heart of hearts, she is not vengeful. She has a magical heart. She has a fierce love. And I just really love this moment at the end. He dies with her on his shoulder. And so many people, they'll tell the story in a way that it's ominous, that there she was, and the Morrigan at last was victorious. But if the Morrigan wanted to be victorious, she already had her opportunity and didn't take it. In fact, the Morrigan, throughout the story, she follows him as one follows a beloved. And so even though there is this, this tension between them, even though there is this, this kind of this fight between them that seems to go almost to the end, it's as if on some level, her being the battle goddess and him being the greatest warrior who ever lived, it's almost like they're the only two that can truly understand each other. And so in this one moment at the end, they are at last in peace. So I like to tell that story because I think again it reflects. I think it's actually for Cuchulainn himself, who, at first he really disrespects this sovereignty goddess. But in this moment, it's like he just has reverence and respect for her. In this moment, she just gets to have the companionship to be with him in his last breaths. So I don't know if you guys like that story. I know it's a bit grim, but I feel like we did so much with Cuchulainn last week that I wanted to tell that story. And I just really felt like the Morrigan wanted you guys to understand, I think, the depths of her heart. And, I think that's part of the activation. We are going to go into an activation in a second. And there is going to be, like I said, there's another Halloween story with Queen Maeve, but I actually feel that we've done like two stories now, and it might be like we might be having too much storytelling. So I think we're gonna do the activation, and then we'll do the final, the Samhain story, and there might be a final closing activation with Queen Maeve herself. But before I go on, before we do the activation, did anyone want to share any reflections to the story? Claudine, you love the story. It's like, I know, but Claudine is biased. She loves what I do. It's like, I feel like Claudine just loves me. But no, but anyone else have any takeaways or any experiences? Oh, Barbara, you had goosebumps. Okay, because I think it's a very mighty story. It is very powerful. This is actually my first time telling it aloud. And I felt almost, to me, it's a really epic story. In some ways, it is the most iconic story of the Morrigan. And I just feel, especially if you were here last week for Islands and Mermaids, or not for Islands and Mermaids, for the 3-day Mermaids Magic and Rejuvenation challenge. You saw Cuchulainn was prominently featured, and it's always him and his most epic and his most daring and his most valiant. And so those are all the stories of Cuchulainn at the height of heroism. And so I think to actually hear like him taking his dying breaths, and I just want to share this kind of what's coming through. It's an honor. Truly it is, like, to be with someone when they pass to that next world. It's an honor, and there is an intimacy to it. That's what I wanna say. There is an intimacy that is just, like, it's almost one of our most precious moments. Think of it. We come into this world, that's a precious moment. And we always ask, like, who was there the moment we were born? Because there is an intimacy, the moment that we came into this earthly existence. And I think it's also very intimate who is there when we take our last breaths. It is like really indicative of, who loves us the most. And that's the whole thing. And so people will tell that story sometimes as the Morrigan lands on his shoulder and she's gloating, ha, I have won, I am victorious. But no, like I said, to me, I see this as a moment of deep companionship. So let me just check in the chat. Um, and let me see here. Um, oh, Leela, you say it was a powerful love story, a story of fierce love and love is a capacity to be present, even a moment as powerful and transformative and tender as death. Um, Claudine, you said, yes, you can explain the feeling when you are with someone when they pass. Absolutely. And that's part of why I'm like, I think the story has been, that's what I wanted to share, is because if you just read this as an ancient text, you are missing the nuance, you are missing the heart, the soul of this story. And so that's just really what I feel wanting to come through. And so it's so funny because I know today is Samhain, Halloween, and so it is all about our connection to the other world. And so we are going to go. Should I tell? I'm trying to decide if I should. Okay, I think there's going to be 2 activations today, everyone. I'm sorry. I just feel like there's going to be 2 activations. If anyone has to leave, I have no idea how long this call will be, but I just knew that there was this desire from Maeve and the Morrigan, and they were just like, we are coming through together today. And they really wanted to initiate you, to bring you into the majesty of the other world on the sacred portal. So let me just see here. I think someone else just wrote down. Oh, Sandra, yours also about the struggle between ego and heart. I love that. Yes, yes. Thank you for sharing that, because I think that's what happens. I think Cuchulainn in the beginning of the story, he's in his ego. And the Morrigan, when she gets like, spurned, she's in her ego. She's like, oh, how dare he reject me so? I am the Morrigan. I am the sovereignty goddess of the land. And also, I just want to say that in general, not that any of us are doing this, but Cuchulainn is actually an example of what everything not to do. Like, do not disrespect the sovereignty goddess, the goddess of the land. And I know that also might be confusing because I've told so many stories of different sovereignty goddesses. Queen Maeve is a sovereignty goddess. Eru, for whom Ireland is named, she's a sovereignty goddess as well. And that's part of why I feel like Ireland is just so magical, and the Celtic Isles themselves are so magical, because to me, they really are holding, like, the image I'm seeing in my mind's eye is a crown. It's like they really hold, like, I feel like the coding of sovereignty itself, what it means to really be sovereign unto ourselves, to hold our own sovereign power, not from anything out there, not even because of what we have earned, or what we have accomplished. And I think that's the whole thing with Cuchulainn and so many of the great heroes, is that, it was a great thing to achieve masterful deeds of heroism, that the bards would sing about you, that they would tell stories of you for thousands of years to come. And yes, there is something beautiful in that. But really, when you connect with the sovereignty goddesses of the land, like the Morrigan, like Queen Maeve, the sovereignty comes just from them holding their own divine essence. Because sovereignty, when we look at sovereignty, when we see a king or a queen, really what we're looking at is someone who is completely one with their divine essence. That light within them has not been dimmed. And so when Cuchulainn spurns the Morrigan, when she transforms into an eel, and he lashes at her, when she transforms into a wolf and he lashes at her, like all of these times, this is not what you do to a sovereignty goddess, and someone who is so in touch with their own divine essence. And I also feel this kind of what's coming through, because I like to pick apart the stories. I think the Morrigan, by kind of giving chase to Cuchulainn, giving way, she kind of loses a little bit of her sovereignty in that exchange, because her ego is wounded. Thank you. I think it was Sandra who said that. Her ego is wounded. And so it really is, when Cuchulainn blesses her and he heals her, it's her sovereignty that is restored. So I feel like there's something really powerful here. I think that's going to be the activation that we're going to be stepping into. There is a magical reclamation of sovereignty that's happening here on today's call. And also, just like the Morrigan always, for me, brings this energy through of being absolutely fearless and going after what you want. Because you can see this. That's the whole thing with the Morrigan. I keep talking here because I just, like, I love these beautiful goddesses so much. But when you look at the story of the Morrigan, and this is funny because this puts her more in the masculine role of the pursuer. But she goes right after him. She's like, I'm gonna go after him. I'm gonna be an eel, I'm gonna be a wolf, I'm gonna be a cow. And she is just going after him. And so she's in that role. But what I share there is that she goes after what she wants. And so there is a fierceness to her. And this is something she invites all of us into, is when you feel something in your heart and your soul, what do you stand for? What do you fight for? And to go after that which you love. And so that's really, we look at the first story with Dagda, she fights for what she loves. If not for the Morrigan, they would not have won the battle that day. So there really is something here that she wants to bring through. It is her fierce heart that so many do not understand. And she fights fiercely to the death for what she loves. And okay. And it's so funny because I know that this is not always the story you will hear of the Morrigan, but I really hope that you can feel coming through these legends coming through me, this transmission from her, really wanting to be seen, to be known in this new light, in the sense that I hear from her, the stories they have told are wrong. And she says, the stories they have told have painted me, not as I truly am. And I just really feel her inviting each of you to form a new sovereign relationship with her. Because when we look at some of the stories, the way they've been passed down since they were transcribed in written form, it is the Morrigan as this bloodthirsty battle goddess. But when you really feel into the heart, the soul of this divine goddess, oh no, she is magic. She is majesty. So just wanting to share that. And I'm gonna take us some water. We're gonna do an activation because I know I feel like we've done a lot of engaging the cerebral and the mind, and I want us to have a really powerful experience with the Morrigan. I know she's gonna bring something very special through for each and every one of you. Okay, beautiful. Okay. So, not sure how long this will be. I never know where we're going or what's happening. And then we're going to have another final story with Samhain and Queen Maeve. And then there might be a mini Queen Maeve activation before we close out for today. But I feel like it's funny. I really yesterday felt, Queen Maeve all excited to show up for today's call. But I think the Morrigan was like, I come first. This is this is my call. I'm coming first. So that's why I think we need to do the activation now with the Morrigan. And one thing that I've shared before is I really feel that, sometimes when you meet the Morrigan, there is this kind of meet your maker moment because when you connect with her, it's again, when I think of her as a death goddess, it's not death in a scary way. It's all the parts of you that are illusion, anything that is not your absolute truth falls away when you connect with her. There's almost like a nakedness to encountering the Morrigan because she wants you to connect with your divine essence, your sovereignty. And to do that, you release all that is not real. You release all illusion. And in that releasing of illusion, you come into your own divine, ultimate, and sacred power. And so I also want to just share this coming through. The Morrigan is also, she's a poetess, she's a prophetess. And so when you connect with her, there's also a lot of activation for the throat, a lot of divine beauty and eloquence. And that's why, I've described that was the coming together, Dagda and the Morrigan. That was actually the conceiving of Bridget. Bridget is a goddess of divine inspiration, poetry, imbas. So of course her mother would have that same gift, that same spark for poetry. And so I'm really sharing this because I get the sense, kind of what I'm sensing here is there are some people on this call or listening to the replay. There's some throat chakra blockages that are helping, that she's going to help with. That's what I'm hearing. She's going to help because it's this is all about your sovereignty. And part of really being in that place of deep sovereignty is that open and activated throat chakra. And I'm also feeling the higher heart wanting to be activated. And in this activation that we are, going to be going into, we're going to be supported by the Tuatha. These are all the ancient gods and goddesses of Ireland. I'm also calling in the sacred circle. I'm calling upon the land, Ireland herself, to be with us. And really, we're calling in the soul codes, the healing that you most need today, and the divine activation and the magic. Really calling in Ireland's most ancient magic, calling in the Sidhe, calling in the hawthorn trees, the fairies, the leprechauns. We are calling in all the most holy magic of Ireland as we really go deep today. And I mentioned earlier that we are going to be connecting with this very magical cave. I think that might be in our second activation, but I do want to say, hopefully I'm pronouncing this right. It's called the Cave of Cats, but actually the Gaelic is Olnyak Cave. My pronunciation might be off a little bit here. But this portal, this is considered, this is by Rathcrogan, which is one of there are 6 ancient royal sites in Ireland. And so this is a cave. I mentioned in the beginning of the call today that it's kind of shaped like a yoni. This cave, if you descend down into it, this was considered the home of the Morrigan. It is the portal to the other world. So when the Morrigan, we connect with her, she is bringing these gifts of prophecy, these gifts of poetry. So the Irish word for divine inspiration is imbas. And so when I say divine inspiration, it is inspiration that is from the other world. So that is part of the gifts the Morrigan is bringing with her. So when we go into this journey, we may actually be going to this cave. If you've never been there before, no worries. I'm going to bring the codes through. And this really is a special place on Halloween. And you're going to learn why, in our final story after the activation, you're going to hear why this cave is really deeply connected to Halloween. Um, but I just want to share, I want to share that this is going to be a deep, I really feel like a deep connection for everyone listening to the other worlds. And especially in the Irish myths and legends, sometimes the other world has a bit of a scary reputation. And what I really want to call in here, I'm calling in just like a sense of joy and love, magic and safety for everyone here. I'm calling upon the god Lu. I'm calling upon the highest of the high, Eru herself. I'm calling upon divine love, magic, and protection for everyone here, that you may experience the magic of the other world in a way that is really joyful and happy and blissful for you. But also, should you need to go more into that mystery, that you feel safe, secure, strong enough to do so. And just really know that us connecting with the Cave of Cats on this auspicious day, on Samhain, on Halloween, like it is the portal is, it's the door to the other world is always open, but it is even more open today than any other time of the year. And that's part of why I knew we had to go on the special journey, all of us today. So I'm going to take a sip of water, and we're going to see what the Morrigan wants to bring through. There might be some other gods and goddesses that show up in this journey. If you know them, great. If not, don't worry about it. They still love you. Let me just take a sip of water. Beautiful. Okay. So I invite you to close your eyes, take a couple deep breaths, and feel yourself transported through time and space. And you are moving to a great earthen mound. This is Rathcrogan, sometimes called Rathcrogan. This is the site of Queen Maeve, where Queen Maeve in her glory days ran an ancient court. I invite you to see this ancient court there beside you, this great palace. And there, yonder in the distance, maybe 200 or 300 feet from this great and glorious palace, you see there is a winding path. At first, it appears that it's just earth, and yet there is a path that appears for your eyes and yours alone. This is a fairy path, and only those with eyes to see know that this is the way to Olniat Cave. This is the way to the Cave of Cats, home of the Morrigan herself. And you now find your feet walking on this ancient, ancient trail that only you seem to see. You feel the blessing of the Morrigan all around you as crows and rooks and ravens dance in circles around the air. And as you continue to walk, the caw of the Morrigan you hear high overhead, it strikes something in you. You feel your heart start to open and expand. Any fear that you're holding there, feel this start to fade. Feel your heart instead being full of the warmest, fiercest love. And you continuing, until suddenly you see there before you an opening to a triangular cave, shaped almost like a yoni, there deep, deep in the center of the earth. This is the Cave of Cats, entrance to the other worlds. Take a moment now to take a deep breath, to feel into the reverence that you have for this place, because this is a place that many have come to connect with the sacredness the majesty of the unseen realms. You feel there is a fairy energy here, and yet there is something beyond that fairy energy, something that feels truly, deeply divine. If it feels good, you may want to get down on your hands and knees and really get close to the entrance of this cave. And there, take a moment to feel the stillness, the softness, the sweetness of this place. Ah, even the grass itself, it seems to sing a song of ages past. Thousands of years have come and gone, and this great portal to the other world remains unchanged. This portal to the other world holds all the majesty that it held thousands of years ago. And as you listen to the cave, you almost hear there is laughter deep inside. You hear the whisper of fairies, the voice of the she, deep in the recesses of the cave. And you feel something inside you stir, your wild fairy heart, your connection, your eternal connection to the other world that cannot be broken or severed or lost, even if you find yourself in human form. For all of us come and go at long last and return to the other worlds when the time is right. And feel as you breathe, feel in your very blood this pull to the other world. Feel the sacredness of this divine cave. And as you sit there, all of a sudden, there is a beautiful, beautiful woman that emerges from the depths of the cave. Ah, she has the most long, radiant black hair. There are ravens at her shoulders. And she walks up wearing, perhaps you see her all in black. Maybe there's just a little bit of gold she wears, or even a hint of red. Take a moment to really see the Morrigan there before you. Raven queen, battle goddess, warrioress. And she emerges step by step, coming out of the cave that is her home. And in this moment, perhaps you have met with the Morrigan before. If so, tell her how happy you are to greet her on this magical Samhain. If not, if this is your first time meeting her, introduce yourself. Tell her how excited you are to make her acquaintance. Do not forget her power as sovereignty goddess. Really, really feel this as she walks. Every step she takes, she is taking all of the sovereignty of Ireland within her, the sovereignty of the land. And she takes a deep look into your eyes. Take a moment now to have this sacred experience with the goddess. She sees through you. It's the very depths of your being. There is a nakedness, a feeling of being completely revealed. And yet now, the goddess raises her arms and there is a great movement of sound and color and light, great magic that moves from her hands. And all of a sudden, there's like a whirlwind, a tornado, and all that is illusion, all that has been stopping you from feeling your true power fades away in this moment. Feel it dissolving in this ring of wind. It almost is like a ring of fire. The Morrigan herself conjures in this moment. All the while, she stares at you with these fierce, fierce eyes. You may imagine these eyes for a second becoming tender. For even when the Morrigan is fierce, really what she seeks above all else is love. In this moment, perhaps you feel tempted to once more express your gratitude, your excitement to be here with her. Perhaps you want to take her hand. Perhaps you feel that it is lonely for her in this cave. Take a moment now for the Morrigan, even though she is here today to bestow a blessing for you. to help you move through all illusion and reclaim your power. Here in this moment, she needs you to connect with her, to bring her back into her heart space, to restore her sovereignty. Can you do this? Can you help her? You are now invited to swish your hands and move through any of that tornado, beautiful magic coming from the Morrigan, knowing that this sacred magic can continue in a few minutes. For now, though, feel into your own heart power, your beautiful divine soul essence, the majesty of your soul. And you may feel called to place a hand on the heart of the Morrigan, or even to kiss or embrace her. Take a moment now to really feel your magic. And if you feel called to place a hand on the heart of the Morrigan, I invite you to really intend that your heart fire, your sacred, most tender, most loving parts of you, let her feel that sweetness, that tenderness. Meet her in this space. Meet her in that moment with this sweetness. For this is what she is seeking. This is what she is hungry for. This is what she needs above all else. And take a moment now to really feel this transmission coming from you, you and your divinity, you and your power. Feel there's almost a nectar here, a sweetness, a honey that you are bringing through to her. And really just open your heart even bigger. Morrigan, I am here for you. I'm here for you with the love of ages. I'm here for you with the love I have in my heart from all of my lifetimes. All the love I have ever known. I open to feeling that now, to being that now. I open that you may feel this too. And take a moment to really embody, to be all the love that you are, all the sweetest, most blissful, most delicate, most gentle magic that you are. Doesn't always need to be fierce. Show this to her. Let her remember. And as you do this, there is a beautiful, almost sparkly light. You almost see as if it's made of little stars that starts to swirl around the Morrigan. Now, instead of her being the one that brings the transmission, it is you. You are here restoring her to her true sovereignty, to her joy, to her magic. You are here bringing her back to her bliss. Just really see her soften. Perhaps you even see some part of her almost start to tear up for a second. Something opens in her heart. For in this moment, you say, Morrigan, you do not need to be the battle goddess. I am here with you. I am here with the utmost love, the love of creation itself. And take a moment once more to place your hands on her heart and just see her transform. The Morrigan, great shapeshifter, she who can transform at will, transform into a crow or a rook or a raven or an eel, but not always sure how to transform her heart back into its first state, back into its earliest moments, before she had to be the Raven Queen, the battle goddess. And here in this moment, there is a nakedness to her. You see her soul essence, she truly is. And take a moment to really see the Morrigan. How does she appear to you? What is her ultimate truth? Beyond the battle regalia, beyond the magic, see her for what she really is. And in this moment of pure vulnerability and nakedness, feel yourself also drop any soul armor, any heart armor, anything that you are holding on. and really feel this meeting of hearts, this meeting of souls. And from this place, feel yourself free, free. Really feel yourself. This is true sovereignty, true freedom. There are no more masks to wear. You just get to be all of who you are, the complete truth and beauty of all that you have ever been. You can reclaim any lost parts of yourself in this moment. And now take a second to see if there are any lost parts of you from earlier times in your life, parts of you that are wanting to come back to you. Maybe a sweetness, a tenderness, maybe even a certain kind of sense of humor, anything that you held back, anything that you buried away. In this moment, we call upon the help of all the Tudadan and of all of our fierce and protective, loving, sacred, divine team to bring all the parts of you that have been hidden, that have been locked away, to bring them all together, to bring them back. We call upon the highest magic of Samhain and Halloween. We call for a reclamation of all that you are. And feel all this coming back, whatever is meant to come through. And you also, in this moment, see the cave start to light up. And there's a great, beautiful majesty, a magic that comes from the other worlds. And great gifts. These could be gifts of beautiful spurts of magical light. They could actually be gifts of coins. Gifts from the other world start to pour out of this cave. You bend down to pick them up. Maybe they're flowers, maybe they're ferns, primroses. Take these gifts. These are for you. And now see if the Morrigan, if she herself has a message for you. And perhaps as you look at her, perhaps she has changed even in her appearance. Perhaps her hair has even changed color. Perhaps even the clothes she is wearing. Perhaps she has changed. But you are meeting the real Morrigan. That fierceness cannot be undone. That is who she is, that fierce love. It cannot be taken from her. And yet here she is in this moment, and she wants to meet you as her true self. And she wants to give you wisdom from the purest part of her soul. Open now to receive any words of wisdom from the Morrigan. Beautiful. And now she says, even with this stripping down, this return to my own truth, I am a goddess, not of battle, she says, but of victory. A goddess of victory and truth. That is who I am. Though few have known me this way, that is who I am. And I will guide you to victory, beautiful one, chosen one. Tell me what you need my help with. Tell me what valiant and noble quest is in your heart of hearts. Let me take you to victory, she says. Now I invite you to call something to mind, something that you are in the process of creating. And just really in this moment, open up to receiving a blessing from the Morrigan for your own victory. And as this is coming through, you may see the Morrigan raise her hands, and there's a golden light that emanates. This is a blessing for your victory, knowing your victory is assured. As she promised victory to the Dagda, as she had the vision, the foresight, so too she promises victory for you. And perhaps in this moment, you are granted a vision. She leans forward and touches your third eye. As she was shown a vision to protect the Dagda, to ensure victory on that auspicious day, she invites you now to have a vision, something that you need to see, to ensure the outcome, to ensure what you are most wanting to create. And just see if there are any beautiful, glorious visions that come to you. Beautiful. And now the Morrigan has one final blessing for you. She places the hand on your shoulder and initiates you as goddess of victory, queen of victory, goddess of truth, queen of truth. And she also offers you a blessing of healing, as Cuchulainn blessed her. So she blesses you. This is the blessing of the utmost sovereignty. Open to receive this now. Know that all of your dreams are blessed. She will be with you. She will be with you. And now, before we say goodbye, just see if there are any final words of wisdom the Morrigan wishes to share with you. Beautiful. And I invite you to take one last look at this cave, this glorious cave, and feel yourself transported back through time and space to the room you first began today's magical journey. You might want to rub your palms together, move your feet against the floor, really come back into the now moment, really come back into this great, beautiful, and glorious space. And I was not expecting the activation to turn in that way. But I really feel it was important because the Morrigan is such a misunderstood goddess. And I just felt like it was really important today that we offer her some healing. And what I really sense is as she gets her healing, we are all healed as well. And it's just also greater healing for the land of Ireland. And so I think we all came here together today to do some very high and holy, holy magic. And I just feel such a lightness, such a warmth in my heart. I just really feel the Morrigan is so happy, just so happy to have been loved and cherished by all of you. Because that's the part of the story with Cuchulainn is that she is, she's slighted and she's not cherished. And I know from the story of Dagda that I shared with you in the beginning that this is a woman that she has a big heart. She is passionate. So let me just see in the chat here. Oh, okay, like, thank you. Oh, Kate, you said, "Thank you so much, such a beautiful exchange." And Barbara, you said, "Thank you so much, totally understand and feel the grace of this." Yeah, I was not planning on this. I was like, "Okay, they're gonna receive blessings from the Morrigan." I never thought, actually, we're giving blessings to the Morrigan. Hold on, let me take another sip of water. And yeah, this call, it's like, this is when I do the challenges, I try to keep them to like an hour. But then when I do like sometimes special calls, it's kind of like they go as long as they need to go. And I have one more story, and I'll see if we want to maybe be like a 2-minute, like quick mini activation at the end, because I know people have been on the call a long time. But I do want to share the story and have one more sip of water. Okay, so I learned this the last time when I was in Ireland in September, heard the story for the first time, and I was like in love with the story. So this is my first time telling it. I'm very excited. Okay, so I want to just make sure I had some notes. I want to make sure I have this person's name right. I think it's Nira. Okay, good. So beautiful. Um, oh yes, I know some of you have to leave. I know it's been a long call, so don't worry. No worries. This is we're wrapping up here. But I'm just like wanting to make sure that people get to hear this story. Oh, and Katerina, you said like this is kind of powerful. You got so much reassurance, you got so much reassurance, and you feel the healing. Oh, I'm so glad. Okay, beautiful. Okay, that warms my heart. Oh my God, I'm almost gonna cry telling this next story. Okay, so the next story is our last story for the day, I think. I'm pretty sure. Okay, so we're backtracking. So before everything was, so we're gonna actually, I almost feel like we have to like kind of clear the air. The Morrigan is still here with us, overlighting our container. We are now shifting into Queen Maeve. Love Queen Maeve. She's one of my favorites. And so I want to just share that these stories are actually, these are both taking place on, there's this place, Rathcrogan. It's actually, the proper pronunciation is like Rathcrogan. I think I'm saying that right. It's hard for me because you have to like there's like a special Rathcrogan. I think there's like a way that I have to kind of enunciate the R, and my mouth doesn't quite know how to do it. So I've been trying. But well, you know, that's actually the more of the Gaelic way to actually say it correctly. But so this is, I shared this before, one of the ancient royal sites. And so this is one of the sites that is sacred to Queen Maeve. And so this is in Connacht. This is the west of Ireland. This is actually where my ancestors are from. So this is why I get very excited. This is why I get very excited. And so Queen Maeve is also a battle goddess. She's also a warrior queen. And I want to just share, it's very interesting because when we look at the Irish gods and goddesses, most of them, they're all pretty much goddesses, but there are only a couple that are actually queens. And I really think it's basically it's Queen Maeve, and it's the Morrigan, and those are the two. They are the queens. So it's definitely a lot of sovereignty energy when we work with them, and that's why to me it's very cool that we're working with them together. And so if you, I'm also just checking. Katerina, I need to go. I need to, this is my last time checking the chat because I get so distracted. I get so excited when I see you guys' comments. You felt a lot of love, and you put your hand on your heart and shared your love with her, and she helped support your power in return. Ah, beautiful. Okay, so now I'm gonna just like focus in. I get so excited by your comments, everyone here. But so I want to just share. So Rathcrogan, like so basically there is the complex. That's where we started the first activation. If you had gone there thousands of years ago, you would have seen this great, beautiful, glorious palace. It would have been like protected, and that's where Queen Maeve would have lived. Right now, there is just grass. Grass and sheep and cows. But in its heyday, you can imagine it would have been very glorious. And then if you go a ways, there is, you know, the cave, like the cave of the Morrigan that we just visited. So they are on the same site. So in this case, I'm just sharing that the Morrigan, Queen Maeve, they are very deeply entwined, very connected. And like this story that we're going to be sharing now, or I'm going to be sharing, it literally is like 200 or 300 feet. It's like not very far. Actually, maybe that's exaggeration. Maybe it's like a mile. Maybe it's a mile, but it's not that far. It's not that far from the cave. And the cave is in the story. So I want to share, some of you may have heard this. This is the story of Nira. And so this was actually written down. This is one of the stories that was written down. And when you read it, it's like the magic is not quite there. And that's why I'm really calling in all of my bardic talents right now. I'm calling in the gods, the forces that be, also calling in to the down and the god of eloquence. His name is Ogma. So I'm really calling him in to be with me. And I just want to take one sip of water before I tell this story. So many people know Queen Maeve. There's the whole story of the brown bull of Cooley. And Queen Maeve has a husband that she's not that fond of. His name, I always say it's like Alili. It's like Aillili. It's like a very odd name for an American to pronounce. But I'm just gonna call him Alili or like Alil, just because it's like easy for me to pronounce it that way. But so he is still, regardless of all the like little tiffs he gets into with Queen Maeve, he is still a good warrior. He's a good king in his own right. And so there is on Samhain, so I'm setting the stage. This is a very magical night. This is Samhain, where we find ourselves today. And there is a great banquet. There is a great feast that is happening. And earlier this day, there were two people that were hanged, and those two people are there. They're outside on the grounds, and everyone else, Queen Maeve, the king, all of the warriors, they are inside Bethkrog, and they are there, really like having this great, glorious banquet. Everything is wonderful. But the king wants to have a little bit of fun. And so he wants to know who the bravest of his men are. And to do that, he basically says, I want someone to go tie. He wants someone to tie something. It's kind of like almost like a sash around the ankles of one of the corpses. Who is brave enough to do this? And so one by one, the men are like, okay, because they know that it's Samhain. And so they know it's a night the dead can return to life. So one by one, like the men, the great warriors go out and they're like, okay, I'm going. And they get too scared, too frightened, and they turn back. And there's only one among them. And this is the hero, Nira. And so Nira says, I am valiant, I am bold, and I am wise. I will go and I will place this around the ankle of the corpse. And so everyone's like, oh, Nira, oh, like, and they all cheer and they cajole. And so Nira turns to the king and he says, what will I get? What will I get for such a feat? For I am to do this. I am determined. I will show no fear. What will happen when I return? And so the king promises, I will give you, and he takes out, this is the king's sword. It's a golden sword. And he promises to give his golden sword to Nira should he be victorious. So Nira says, okay, thank you. I will make note of that. I am looking forward to my beautiful new golden sword. And anyway, so Nira goes out. He goes out, and the corpses, before, when earlier in the day they were hanged, they were dead. By all means, they were dead. They were not breathing. Because it is Samhain, these corpses have new life. And so they are animate, they are alive. And so Nira goes and he takes, it's like some kind of tie that he takes to wrap around the ankle of one of the corpses to show his bravery, to show his courage. And so the corpse now turns to him and says, you know, I see what you're trying to do, and I can help you. I will let you put this around my ankle that you may go back to your king and you may get this golden sword. But I died thirsty. I died so thirsty, and all I want is just a drink of water. Get me the drink of water. I will help you tie this. I will let you go back to your king so you may reclaim this golden sword. And so he asked Nira to put him on his back and help him find a drink of water. So Nira goes, he takes the corpse, who's now animate, puts him on his back, and they go, to the nearest house they can find. That house is suddenly, as they draw closer, it's like a small hut. Suddenly it is encased with a ring of fire. And Nira knows they cannot go inside. We must go to another house, the corpse says. And so Nira says, okay, let's go. So they continue on their way till they get to the next house. And as they approach, everything looks fine until suddenly there's a great ring of beautiful water, a lake that forms around the house, and they cannot cross it, for it is too deep. And so they do not venture forth, and Nero says, "We must go to another place. Surely there will be another place that I can get you this water." So at last they go and they find the third house. And here there is no ring of fire, nor is there a beautiful lake surrounding the doorway. They are able to go right inside. And they, there Nero finds water for the corpse. He sits him down. He gets some water for him. The inhabitants, come running, for they have never seen such a sight before. Here is like the greatest warrior in the kingdom, and here is a corpse sitting at their table. And the corpse, when he sees the inhabitants, when he sees the people, he is so shocked that he spits out the water. And this is water that's been drunk by someone who has passed to the other side, to the other world. The second the water spits from his mouth, it actually kills the inhabitants stone dead. So Nero looks at this and is like, "Oh my God, I better get this corpse back." And it's like, "I don't want any more destruction at my hands. This is enough. I got more than I bargained for with this." But the corpse is happy and pleased, for he has been satiated. He has had the drink of water that he so desired, the moments before he came to his death. And he thanks Nira and he says, "Thank you for this gift you have given me." And so he goes back on Nira's shoulder, like the sash is tied around his ankle. Nira gets everything that he was promised, so he's like, okay, and he returns the corpse to the place where he found him, and he says, "Okay, I'm ready to go back now." And he heads back to Krogan. He heads back to the place where Queen Maeve and her husband and all of the people in the kingdom were cajoling and celebrating Samhain. And when he goes back, something terrible has happened. He sees that everyone, like the palace has been burnt. The palace has been burned. All of the people there are dead, and it's the greatest destruction, and he sees that they have been killed by the people of the other worlds. And he doesn't know what to do, so he follows very stealthily the people of the other world back where they're heading, and they're heading to Alanya Cave, the Cave of Cats. They're heading to this portal to the other world. They're going back inside. So he disguises himself and he goes with them. He goes with them, for everyone that he loves, everyone that he cares about is gone. And he follows the she. These are like the Tudadan, and these are the she. He follows them, into the other world. And it's not long before they realize that he is not one of them. And they call the she, the fairy folk, they call for the fairy king, the king of the other world. And they say, "There is one among us who is human, who is not of this world. He is here." And the king says, "Well, bring him then before me." And so Nira, who is very used to being in the company, the presence of kings, goes before this great fairy king. And he shares, why he is there. He shares that all the people he knows and love on the other side have been defeated and destroyed. So he knew nothing else but to come here. And so the fairy king says to him, "Well, I will let you stay here. I will let you stay here." And he gives him a specific task that, for a year, he will bring every day. He must like pay its homage. It's like a sacrifice that he must bring firewood every day to the castle of the fairy king. Should he do that, he will be safe. In the meantime, though, he lets him spend time. He says, "There is a beautiful fairy maiden. I want you to stay with her. You stay with her while you undergo this sentence. And, and every day I expect that the firewood will be here at my palace as I have decreed." So Nero does as he is bid. He goes to this place, and he is told by the king to tell this beautiful fairy being, this beautiful woman from the other world, that the king himself has insisted, that he be with her, that he stay here while he fulfills his sentence. So she welcomes him in, and as luck would have it, if there is a great I really felt this woman's presence this morning when I was getting ready for the call. And what I really felt from her is there is this love at first sight when she first lays eyes on Nira. There is just this complete opening of her heart, her soul, when she lays eyes upon him. And the two lay together. And 3 days later, she tells him she is with child. And so he's like, well, that was unexpected. Really, it's not unexpected, but for him, it's unexpected. And she says to him, and now I must tell you a great secret, because she has fallen so deeply in love with him. And she says, what you saw when you went back to the palace at Rathcrogan, that has not happened yet. That is what will happen, Samhain, a year from now, if you do not stop it. And so she tells him, if you wish to stop this, you must go back today. For you've already been in the other world 3 days. You cannot be here much longer, or you will not be able to return. So she tells him to go back to Queen Maeve, to go back to the king and warn them that they may be ready the next Samhain when the fairy people are to attack. And so, she says, I'm, with child, and I will bear the child here, and I will meet you on that night. I will find you. And so Nira kisses her goodbye and does what he is bid. But before he goes, he wants to do his duty one last time. He takes the firewood to the king's palace, but he notices something very strange, that there, on the way to the palace where he goes to drop off the firewood, there is a great well. And in this well, there are two men that go every day, and he's seen this. There's a blind man and a lame man, and every day they go to this well, and there's something that they go and they make sure is safe. And so he waits on this day to see what it is they are guarding so carefully. And there at the bottom of the lake, he sees, or I should say the bottom of the well, he sees a crown. He sees a crown there, and he realizes this is the crown of the fairy king himself. So he heads back. To the fairy woman who is now his wife, and he says, "What is the meaning of this?" And she says, "That is the crown of the fairy king. And when you return next year, when Queen Maeve and the king are victorious, you must come into the other world. And the only way you will truly win is you must come and get this crown. For no other thing will ensure your victory." And so with that, Nira is given his final instructions. He kisses his wife goodbye for the last time, thanks her again for all she has given him, for all the love she has shared, for all the trust he has known with her. And he heads back to Queen Maeve and tells her everything. He tells the king, and first he says, "I want my sword. I want my sword. And now I tell you, I saw the most horrible thing. A year from now, I saw every one of you gone, destroyed. I saw all this place burned down. We must act. We must be ready." And so they take him very seriously because he was very wise, and he brought with him things from the other world. He brought with him garlic and a primrose. And he brings these things because it is known that these do not come from the mortal world. They come from the world of fairy. And him bringing these to Queen Maeve, bringing them to the king, makes them know beyond a shadow of a doubt that what he says is true. So they have a whole year to prepare. And on the following Samhain, when the Sidhe attack, when the beings of the other world attack, Queen Maeve and her husband, they are ready. They do everything that Nira says. They fight valiantly. They are not taken unawares. They head into the other world, they find the well, and they hold the crown within their hands, the crown of the king of fairy, and they bring it back with them. And this is what saves them. So in this glorious moment, Nira, who was fighting on behalf of his people, finds, waiting for him as promised, his beloved wife. And even though Queen Maeve and King Alila, even though they are all victorious and they are drunk with victory, they were not defeated. They were not taken unawares. Here in this moment, Nira slips off back with his wife into the other worlds. And he goes with her. He has fulfilled his duty. He has saved his kingdom. He has done honorable right by the king and queen. But now it is time for him to be with his wife. Now it is time for him to be with the child that she has borne him. So Nira goes into the other world, never to be seen again. And the stories say he is still there with his beloved, still every day bringing the firewood to the king, still every day syncing up the beauty, the majesty of the other worlds. And so that is the end of that story, but many people cite that as the origin of Halloween. That is really considered like the first Halloween story. So I just wanted to share that with you because I thought that was something that really wanted to be present, that really wanted to come through. And it's really important when we look at the story because, well, one, for Nero, once he goes and spends time in the other world, it's like he can't really stay anymore in like the mortal realm permanently because he spent too much time. Even just spending that small amount of time in fairy, it was enough to change him. And so there's that little bit of again, it's like, that's the whole thing about Samhain, Halloween. It's that time of year when the veil is very thin, when the worlds are open to each other. And that's the reason why that's the reason why the fairy host, like that's why they're going to attack on Halloween night, because they're going to go through the cave because the portal is open. And that's also the reason why the following year, Queen Maeve and her army, they're able to actually go into the other world and to get the crown because again, the portal is open that one day of the year. And so even though like, yes, it's a magical portal, it is like rumored that people do come and go sometimes. Really, it's Samhain, it's Halloween, that portal is open. So just really wanted to share that story with you. And I'm just trying to think if there's anything else that, wants to come through here. I know I've been talking for a while. I just want to do, I think one last quick transmission for people to just kind of connect with Queen Maeve and just receive any final blessings for Samhain. And I hope you like that story because I think it does have a happy ending. I mean, the Queen Maeve and her kingdom, like they all live. But I think that one of the things I was reading about the story is that it's another story of sovereignty. And that's why when we look at like the king in the other world, he's not really a good king. He's not very wise. What he could have done, like when he sees that Nira is like, he knows that this is a great warrior, he wouldn't be here. And yet he sends him off to be with a beautiful otherworld woman. He doesn't imprison him. He doesn't do anything. He lets this man essentially go free. So he's not a very wise ruler. And so I think that's part of the symbolism with, Queen Maeve, with the king, with them eventually taking that crown from the other world, because it really is like, what does it mean to be a good leader? What does it mean to take care of it, to protect the people? And I was reading something really, a beautiful kind of like academic paper on this story, because this is an ancient legend. It's actually the king is the one who makes the heroes. Because if it wasn't for the king challenging all of the warriors, like who is brave enough to put, the sash around the corpse, the hero would not be made. So it's really Nira is able to step up, to be valiant, to be noble, to be brave, because the king issues him a challenge. And so there is something really here about, it's like, The king is the one that holds the stability, the prosperity of the kingdom, or sometimes in Queen Maeve's case of the queendom. They hold the prosperity in times of peace, but it's the hero or the heroine that upholds that upholds the order of things when society's threatened, when things are in danger. And in that moment, it's the hero or heroine that upholds the sovereignty of the people. So I just wanted to just kind of, just talk a little bit about the metaphors in that story. Hopefully you guys got something out of it, because a lot of these stories, when we see like what is the meaning, they're beyond meaning. They're ancient. These are ancient stories that just bring us into the wonder, into the majesty, reminding us just how close we are to the mysteries. And so without further ado, I'm just going to do a final quick, it's going to be like 2 or 3 minute activation and just like help you connect with Queen Maeve. Maybe we'll go to the Cave of Cats one more time and just see if there are any further downloads, transmissions, or magic that wants to come through for you. So this will be super quick. And I just invite you to close your eyes, take a couple deep breaths, and really feel yourself transported back through time and space, once more to the entrance of the Cave of Cats. And here at the entrance of the cave, instead of seeing the great and glorious Morrigan, you see Queen Maeve herself with her beautiful host. She has a host of fairy beings behind her. And really see this great and glorious Queen of Connacht. Feel the regality as you look into her eyes. Perhaps she's wearing all red. Perhaps her hair has, maybe there are golden pieces of jewelry in her hair. Maybe there are roses in her hair. Really see this great and glorious queen standing there before you. And she stands there holding out a beautiful crown. This is the crown of the other worlds. And take a moment to really bend your head, and she places the sovereignty crown on you. Really receive this gift from Queen Maeve, this gift from the other worlds, this gift from Connacht, from the land. This is a truly sacred gift here. This is uniting our world, the mortal world, with the other world. Really, in this moment, feel the union of both these places within you. Feel yourself being imbued with all of the magic of the beyond and all the sovereignty of your soul. Really feel your sovereignty reborn in this moment, renewed, reestablished. Really feel this great gift from the Queen. And now see if Queen Maeve has any words of wisdom for you on this magical Samhain. Beautiful. And I just invite you now to see around her all the Tuatha. These are the gods and goddesses of Ireland. There may be some you recognize. You may say the goddess Bridget, goddess of fire. You may see Eru, goddess of the land. Perhaps you see Lu, the great warrior king. Just see if there are any beautiful beings that you recognize. If not, just know all the Tuatha, they are here assembled, and we are calling through a sacred blessing for you this day, for your manifestations, for your dreams, for everything that you desire to come to fruition. And we're just really calling upon special Halloween blessings and Samhain magic for you. I also feel the beautiful presence of the Dagda, who brings through his cauldron of plenty, that you may know prosperity and joy in all of your days. And just really feel yourself blessed, held in the divine presence, the energy of these great and glorious gods and goddesses, really calling in boons, calling in blessings for you, and sacred, holy Halloween magic. Just calling in whatever you most require, any healing, any final activation here today, codes the wisdom that you most need. Beautiful. And now feel yourself transported back through time and space to the room where you first began today's magical journey. Beautiful. And I know this has been a long call. It's been almost 2 hours. I just got very much like into the magic and I wanted to bring this through for everyone. So I hope you enjoyed that. Anyone wants to share in the chat how that experience was for them, I'd love to hear. I also want to just share some announcements. So today, if you guys have been following me, you've seen that like I have another trip to Ireland in May 2025. It's called Islands and Mermaids. And today is at midnight tonight is the last chance to sign up for the fast action bonus. And so fast action bonus is something very, very special. I mean, the trip itself, like I cannot tell you how excited I am to take beautiful, beautiful souls to Ireland to experience the majesty firsthand. But if you are called to jump in before midnight tonight, the fast action bonus is like the most beautiful thing that I think my soul like could create for you. And what it is essentially, it is a 2.5 hour private session and ceremony on the ocean that will be happening. If you come on the trip, it will be during like the evenings. One of the evenings that we're there, I will take you by myself to the water. We will do a sacred ceremony for rebirth to really help you step into like your soul destiny, your soul codes. And when I do these activations, I bring through whatever gods and goddesses your soul is most calling, most calling to connect with. So that could be the Tuatha, it could be the Morrigan, Queen Maeve, it could be the Mermaids. But really, like I just really invite you to see if Ireland is calling. And if it is, I would love to really experience like one-on-one magic with you. Because I know that I get to have these sacred experiences with everyone on Zoom in these larger group settings. But to me, there's nothing just like being heart to heart, one-on-one. And so if you would like to have that really sacred, divine, intimate experience with me in Ireland, like I said, it would be at the ocean, really receiving those codes. And this is, I believe, I think it's, like I said, it expires tonight at midnight. So depending on when you're listening to this, like, this is just something that like, if you want to sign up, please don't hesitate. I only have 3 more spots available because there are only so many nights that we're there. So if you want this, if this calls to you, please, if you have questions, send me an email. But I also just wanted to share that, the mermaid replays will also be going down tonight at midnight. So if you haven't had a chance to watch those yet, or you want to rewatch them, this is your golden opportunity. And if you don't have time, but you want to go more deeply into the activations, there's also a beautiful bundle you can purchase to have lifetime access to all of the mermaid magic and the mermaid activations. And I think the last thing I want to share is that I know some of you have found me on YouTube when I did the mermaid challenge more recently. People are not on my email list. I'm going to, like, beneath this video on YouTube, I'm going to actually share a link to sign up for like one of my free gifts. And this will be, if you sign up, you'll get a beautiful meditation and you'll also be on my email list. So if you want to connect more with me more deeply and like get more information, that's just something that will keep us connected. So I think that's it for today. And like, I just want to say again, happy Halloween, happy Samhain. And again, anyone who is really in your heart of hearts feeling guided to go to Ireland with me in May 2025, it is going to be the trip of a lifetime. My whole heart, my whole soul, like I put this together with so much love, and I would love to see you there with me. And I know that it's not till May, so there's plenty of time to sign up. But if I said, if you come on before midnight tonight, you really get this very sacred, divine, intimate one-on-one ceremony with me on the ocean that I think would just be so magical and so powerful. And the last thing I want to say before I finish is I know it might seem like 2025 is a ways from now, but the choices we make now, we are setting ourselves up for our most magical 2025, to have the most glorious, sacred experiences of the earth and the land and the sea. And I just feel like this experience of Ireland, this experience of the Celtic gods and goddesses, I just can speak for myself. It just gets deeper and deeper and richer and richer. So I invite anyone who's called to sign up today before midnight to really reap the like I feel like the most beautiful experience, like to have this one-on-one journey along with the bigger trip. So anyway, that's what I wanted to say. I hope you enjoyed the magical storytelling. I hope you enjoyed the activation, the time with the gods and the goddesses. And I am sending you so much love. A big thank you to everyone who's here live, and so much love to everyone who's watching on the replay. Okay, goodbye for now.